Across America, Native American tribes and families are winding down celebrations for Native American Heritage Month, along with passing down generations of tradition through arts, dance, and culture. Serious discussions are also tackling how to save the next generation of Indian country from crippling rates of suicide and substance abuse. You might know the actor Chaske Spencer from the mega hit film franchise Twilight, but he's also a member of the Lakota Sioux Nation and a proud advocate for Native American youth. And we are pleased to welcome Chaske here to our Rise America New York studio. So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Debbie.
Thank you so much for coming in. You know what, dare I, and should I probably should even be embarrassed to admit, but dare I admit that many Americans are not even aware that that November is Native American Heritage Month.
Yeah.
Why is that? And tell me what you want people to know about Native Americans during this time.
Well, I want them to acknowledge that we're still here. You know, I think that our history and our culture has been swept under the rug for far too long, and that it's just throughout my travels that a lot of people around the world, and even in this country, don't really understand that as indigenous people here, Native people, that we're here, we're still here, we have lives. There are several Native Americans, we're doctors, lawyers, and I don't think we are represented very well in the mainstream media or in pop culture.
You know, you make such an interesting point, because I do think that perhaps there is sort of a veil of invisibility. I don't think the media portrays Native Americans the way it used to 30 or 40 years ago as the savages, marauding and war and that kind of, that doesn't happen anymore, but there's just a lack of discussion.
Yeah, and it's, I would like to see to bring that to the table and ask why as well. Why are we represented when we come to the table?
I'm wondering, in your experience growing up in this country, do you feel like you've had to straddle two different worlds, and have those worlds been at odds with one another?
Yeah, of course, yeah. I grew up on several Indian reservations, the Fort Peck, Northern Cheyenne, Nez Perce, and to balance both worlds, it can be difficult, but once, I moved here in New York when I was 21, and it was definitely a culture shock for me. But to go home, it's a great place to go home to get recharged and everything. But to try to get those two worlds to come together and try to balance them, it was difficult. Now it's not as difficult as it was, but it's definitely something that I definitely had to struggle with.
I think two things that people can identify from at least what's being covered in the news media, and that is this trend of getting rid of sports. What's the word I'm trying to think? Mascots. Yes, that have used what are considered to be pejoratives. Of course, the Washington Redskins is the biggest and most recent one there, and the incidence of substance abuse, particularly alcoholism, and then the suicide rate, which you are working to advocate. Talk about that a little bit.
The suicide rate is extremely high for especially teenagers.
Why, Chaske?
Why? I think it has to do with the dysfunction. There's a lot of drugs and alcohol. There's a lot of dysfunction in the family. Poverty is very high. And what a lot of people in this country don't know is it is a third world environment here in the United States. And and a lot is that they're still fighting over the treaty and land rights. And also, I think that it also takes place is that from what we've seen from the mainstream media and pop culture is that as a people we've been, like you said a few minutes ago, was that we weren't portrayed very well. And the shame and guilt that trickles down to the kids, it's there. And that's where the drug abuse and alcoholism comes in.
And so in this day and age, how do you see, having straddled both worlds and become very successful, how do you see as the most effective way to address it, particularly amongst young people?
Education. I think it all starts at home as well. I think that jobs created on a reservation. There was something I had been introduced to a while back called ocean acidification. And it basically recycling your water. And I always thought it'd be a great idea to have this infrastructure on a reservation, because there's a few reservations out there that don't have fresh water at all, where it's polluted by whatever corporation is taking their mineral rights away from or oil. And what I'd like to see is that would be able to create jobs, and it would help some sustainability in pride to bringing, as in Indian country, jobs are very scarce. I think it could start off with that and see where it could go from there. But you know, it's isolated out there. You know, it's very, people don't realize how isolated it is on reservations and the dysfunction and all of that.
I wonder if part of the issue would be, you know, to open up, you know, to open up that door so that there is, you know, less segmentation, if you will.
Yeah, and I do see a change. There is a change happening, but it's just going a slow process. There's a lot more. There's so many Native youth out there. They're doing amazing, amazing work, especially helping out the community and all that.
Chaske, this is such an important conversation. Thank you. I'm going to have to cut it off right there, but it's so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And good luck on your next movie. We'll have to talk about that next time.
Okay, cool. Thanks for having me.
That's going to do it for us today. Stay with Arise News for continuing coverage of the grand jury decision of the Michael Brown shooting. Bye-bye.